you get new reporting, get back to us as soon as possible. I want to bring in now CNN senior legal analyst, Mr. Jeffery Toobin. Jeffrey, thank you for joining us. So I want to, before we speak, Jeffrey, I want to play the exchange at the Sessions confirmation between this exchange between Senator Al Franken and Senator Jeff Sessions. Listen to this.
If there is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign, what will you do?
Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it.
Jeffrey, did he tell the truth?
No, he didn't tell the truth. I mean, that's quite clear. Now, I think as a legal matter, what we need to determine, or what the authorities need to determine, is whether he didn't tell the truth because he made a mistake or because he lied. And legally, there's a world of difference between the two. But, you know, based on what the Washington Post said and based on Evans' reporting, I mean, we know there were at least two meetings, one a group meeting with the Russian ambassador, and the other a meeting in Sessions' office, which is unusual for a senator to meet with an ambassador in those sorts of circumstances. I mean, it's not unprecedented, but it is an unusual thing. And for him then to say, I did not have communications with the Russians, is simply false. Now, the explanation that's being put out by the Justice Department is that he met with the ambassador as a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, not as the leading senatorial surrogate for the Trump campaign. I mean, that's a kind of metaphysical distinction that I'm not sure exists in the real world, but certainly it is something that merits investigation. I'm not here to convict or accuse Jeff Sessions of anything, but any reasonable prosecutor would say these are statements that need to be investigated by an independent prosecutor.
Okay, so you said there's a difference between I don't recall, I don't remember, or just flat out lying. And one would wonder why, you know, if you're going to meet with a Russian ambassador, that, I mean, you would think that he would remember it. So here's my question. If he was under oath, Jeffrey, what is a consequence?
Which he was.
Yeah,
which he was.
Okay, so if he's under oath, what is a consequence if he's found to have lied or even misremembered to the Senate committee?
Well, those two possibilities are very different. Misremembering, making a mistake, saying something false because you honestly did not remember the truth, that is embarrassing. It is something that could subject you to being fired, or you know, great political embarrassment that might lead you to resign. But if you make a good faith mistake and make a false statement, that is not a crime. If you lie under oath in Congress, it is a violation of Title 18, United States Code 1621, and you are eligible to go to prison for 5 years. It's called perjury. And another thing, I'd just like a slight correction on your statement, on your question. You said he said, if you say I don't remember, he didn't say I didn't remember.
He said I didn't.
He said I did not meet.
Yeah.
I had no communications with the Russians. We know that's not true. So the question is, did he misremember, or did he just simply not remember these two meetings with the Russians, in which case it's embarrassing but not criminal? Or did he lie, in which case it is a criminal offense? That is a question that I certainly don't know the answer to, but that is what any reasonable investigator would be looking at right now.
Okay, so we know now that there are cries in Washington, and it's probably going to happen that some sort of investigation into the Trump campaign's alleged ties to Russia. They're calling for that. What happens now? Can Jeff Sessions, as Attorney General, in good faith, say that he can oversee these investigations?
Well, it's simply inconceivable to me that he could oversee these investigations, since his own statement would be something that is the subject of this investigation. I mean, I think the realistic question is whether he can continue being Attorney General. But I mean, it is simply out of the question that he could supervise an investigation where his own behavior is at issue. So the question of whether he recuses himself and turns it over to subordinates
Jeffrey,
in the Justice Department, or
Jeffrey,
whether
I hate to cut you off. I want to get this in.
Sorry.
Let me get this in. Sorry, this is breaking. We have a statement now from the White House. Okay, the White House is saying. An official says, this is the latest attack against the Trump administration by partisan Democrats. General Sessions met with the ambassador in an official capacity as a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, which is entirely consistent with his testimony. It's no surprise Senator Al Franken is pushing this story immediately following President Trump's successful address to the nation. What do you make of that?
Well, law enforcement is never separate from politics in Washington, and it is true that Democrats, will celebrate and enjoy and revel in this problem, and Democrats are certainly doing that. Nancy Pelosi is calling for him to resign.
Yeah, she says he's not fit to serve as the nation's top law enforcement officer. That's a quote from her.
Right, but it's a problem. I mean, the metaphysical distinction between Jeff Sessions as member of the Foreign Relations Committee and Jeff Sessions as Trump campaign surrogate, that's not necessarily a distinction that exists in the real world. And remember, when Sessions was asked this question by Senator Franken, he didn't say, well, I did meet with the ambassador in my capacity as a senator on the Armed Services Committee. He said, I didn't meet with them, which certainly was misleading at best, if not outright false. And again, I'm not saying that Jeff Sessions lied, but I am saying that any reasonable investigation would examine that question and look at all the surrounding circumstances and look at all the evidence. Mm-hmm. And I don't see how Jeff Sessions himself can supervise an investigation of Jeff Sessions.
All right, Jeffrey Toobin, I want you to stand by. I want everyone to stand by. Our breaking news tonight, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, when he was still a senator, apparently had 2 meetings with the Russian ambassador. And again, this is our breaking news tonight that we are reporting here on CNN. There are calls from top lawmakers, mostly Democrats, for him to step down. Nancy Pelosi is saying that he is not fit to serve as the nation's top law enforcement officer. The White House is putting out a statement saying that this is an attack by Democrats, especially after the president's successful address to the nation last night. We'll be back with more of our breaking news. Don't go anywhere.